Hi everyone, welcome to another gentle introduction to. That's two this week actually. I'm on a bit of a thinking models jag at the moment, and so I had a bit of a play around on Saturday when I'm recording this video, which is going out on Sunday, and just had something that I wanted to share. I thought it was really interesting. I'm going to release the code up onto GitHub. It's pretty what's the word I'm looking for here? So I've not done much refactoring. We'll talk about the code in a moment. I will walk through it. I've been helped immeasurably by, so it's got really meta. So I've been using models to create prompts, which I've then been using to prompt models, and then also using the models to help me lay out the code in various ways. And then I've been tweaking the code where I'm not sort of quite happy with it, and then asking the models in turn, oh, can you tweak this bit for me, or this could be done here. But I haven't really done proper refactoring yet. So the code's probably, relatively speaking, not great, but I wanted to put it out there because I really want people to play around with these if they get a chance. And I know I'm getting more people watching the channel as a result of some of my Reasons and Resources episode who are more interested in programming, and I get the impression are keen for me to put out just interesting videos that sort of explain certain concepts in a fairly, simple way, I suppose, or just deal. Well, I suppose more dealing with building blocks is actually what the word I'm trying to think here. So more sort of building block stuff. And I thought if I just walk through my sort of what would you call it, like the sort of mental pathways I go through when I'm thinking about putting together some of this real simple little program stuff the sort of programs that I like to put together. Basically, I like to put together really simple programs that solve a particular problem and make my life easier without doing anything that is too disrupting and destroys the greater good. So I thought I'd walk through just my thought process. That's the word I'm trying to think of, my thought process for this and how I got to where I got to. So first of all, we'll just start off with this. So this all started with me getting interested in what if you could take a job description and turn it into a self-directed study program. So the reason for this was really me thinking about this whole thing about supposing you look at some positions and you're not really experienced enough to do them, but you think to yourself, well, what if I spent a year learning this stuff? Is that feasible? How would that look? Just in really simple terms. So I thought, well, let's try it out. I mean, this is really like a proof of concept. And then I'm going to run with this. The point of me putting the code out there is that then other people can run with it and see where it takes you. And you can just have a play around with some of these new these new thinking models. So this is what I started with, and we'll walk through some of this and sort of recreate the process. So these are sort of the ideas I was coming up with. So can you take a look at the following job descriptions? I wanted some way for the thinking model to think about the complexity of the job before it attempted answering any questions. If you could dedicate 2 years of self-directed study if I could dedicate 2 years of self-directed study to bring myself up to the level of experience required for a job like this, what would a study plan for this self-directed study look like? Could you convert this to a weekly task list for a 2-year study plan you suggested? Do you have any additional advice to consider related to the self-study plan and tasks you've drawn up? And what I noticed at this point and we'll repeat this in a moment, is when I ran it a couple of times, it was generally developing plans that were working around a 15-hour week. So I thought, well, why don't I just up it to 35, somewhere around there. I might have even put it up to 40 actually, but I then went back down to 35. If a person could dedicate 35 hours a week to this plan and tasks, how might that look as a 1-year plan and corresponding weekly task lists? Could you break down the phase, week and task structure into actual deliverables? Now, if you start asking questions like this, invariably it'll go for an easy solution and say, oh, here's a 4-week plan. Just take that and go with it. Because it obviously doesn't want to spend, I suspect there's guardrails in there that stop it like just really going for it. So, which might be different if you were running a local model. I mean, this is stuff I want to experiment with, like running local thinking models. If that, actually, no, I can do that because the deep seat one's a thinking model and that's been distilled. So yeah, so I could do that. This one, as you see in a moment, is using an online API endpoint. And we'll talk through some of that in a moment. So then what I decided to do is, after I ran this a couple of times, is sort of distill it down a bit more. So can you take a look at the following job description and give me your opinion on the complexity of the job? The job description goes in here. If I could dedicate 1 year of self-directed study, dedicating 40 hours a week for 50 weeks to bring myself up to level expertise with regard to the job like this, what would a study plan for this self-directed study look like? Probably need a comma in there somewhere, but anyway, it's working fine at the moment. Could you convert this to a weekly task and deliverables list for the study plan as suggested? Do you have any additional advice to consider related to the self-study plan, tasks and deliverables you have drawn up? Okay, so we'll put that off to the side just because I need to reference it. So of course one thing you can do is we can run through this. So we could do, and how I started was in Google Gemini. So let's go into the thinking. This is really good. This 2.5 Pro experimental. I played around it with the other day. Produces excellent code. The only trouble with it is you don't get many bites of the apple. I think I managed about 3 quite complicated prompts before it sort of timed me out and said, oh, you can't use it again until 8 p.m. that evening or something. But I got to a point with some Lua code where I was getting stuck understanding the correct way to do HTTP requests to, I think it was a llama, without getting weird timing out issues that I wasn't getting with in other languages. And also stuff to do with, it wasn't really, I didn't understand exactly how you sent it, the JSON package. So as a consequence, I was getting a bit stuck while I was trying to understand all the different arguments that the HTTP, I think it's HTTP socket is the library, the HTTP library or function in there could take and what form that needed to be in. And no matter how I tried in other models, which I had access to, I was really getting stuck. And so in the end, I was like rolling my sleeves up, pulling it apart, and I sort of got it to work, but then it didn't work consistently. So I then ran it through this one, and it worked straight away. And I was able to sort of break it down, modify my code accordingly, because I didn't want to actually use its solution because it's shoved in a load of extra, quite rightly shoved in an extra load of error trapping and other stuff like that, which I didn't want at that point. And yeah, so I've gone off on a bit of a side tangent here, but yeah, definitely check this out. We're going to be using this one, and in a moment I'm going to show you how it looks integrated into, in this case, a single HTML file with JavaScript and CSS and HTML in it. Okay, so let me we'll try and do this actually, in sort of repeat the process. So first thing I'm going to do is grab just a job from, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab one I haven't done before. So invariably, Sometimes I grab from about here, sometimes from responsibilities. It depends what this says. I think I'm going to grab this because it's got a little bit about the context. There's some rag stuff in there as well. It looks pretty cool. And we'll go up to there. Okay, so what I'll also do, let me copy that off to the side because we're going to be reusing this and it's just going to save me going back to the website. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so we're going to run that. And this is a thinking model. So you can actually, if you want to, you can see what it's thinking through. So we're going to get an answer, but we're just doing that in stages. It's high complexity. So if you could get to take 2 years of self-study, boom, boom, boom. So we do this. And this is what you get if you do something like that in a thinking model. You can see it's quite good. It's got phases, key areas. So we're going to ask it to do a weekly task list, see where we get to. I like Gemini, it's nice and fast. So here you go, you can see here's our, again, this phase 1, weeks 1 to 12. And so on. So remember, we're still at 2 years here. So now we switch and we start saying, okay, well, what about condensing this down? So here we go. Yeah, it's pretty intense. And I'll show you in the other one. We'll do a couple of examples with we'll find another job as well, which is slightly less demanding. Okay. Now let's try this and just see how much time it wants to spend on this. Could you break down the phase, week, and task structure and actual deliverables? Okay. Okay, so yeah, so it is doing it. Okay, that's good. So I did actually slightly rephrase that from what I originally did when I was sort of developing this. Yeah, so it might get a slightly better thing. So that's how you could do it the long way. Then I went on and I showed you already, I did the other one. So let's take the second one I did. And we'll change gears a bit. So what I tend to do is once I've sort of fine-tuned some stuff, I'll come into here. So what we're going to do is we're all going to do this in one hit. We're going to put the job description in here as well. Before I do that, I'm just going to reiterate so you know what I'm doing here. So can you take a look at the following job description and give me your opinion on the complexity of the job? If I could dedicate 1 year, so we've condensed all of that step-by-step thing into one thing essentially, or the bulk of it. So dedicate 40 hours a week, 50 weeks. So we've upped from 35 to 40 to bring myself up to the level of expertise required for a job like this. What would a study plan for this self-directed study look like? And you'll see in a moment I slightly reworded this. I'm just going to leave it as it is. Could you convert this to a weekly task and deliverables list for the study plan suggested? Do you have any additional advice to consider relate to the self-study plan, tasks and deliverables you have drawn up? Okay, so we're going to implant a job description here. And then we're going to run this. Now, of course, there's some other things you could do. You could maybe make it clear as to where that job description starts and finishes. So here we're using the Gemini Flash Thinking Experimental. which is the same model here, but we're just in the AI Studio. Like I said, I tend to prefer to come into here once I've started to nail down prompts a little bit. It's, you know, we can adjust things here quite easily, like the temperature. We can see what the token count is. We can even get the code for different languages. You know, it's really nice. We can save this to the library. Yeah, I really like working in here, but I do like to just do stuff on the fly in here while I'm developing it. So, and these are completely independent, so what you save in here doesn't bridge over to this. Okay, so here we go. So now we have this. So now what you can do is take that and produce something like this. So let me show you what it looks like now. So again, same thing. So this is now something that I've created with the help of, funnily enough, the Google AI Studio thinking model, Flash thinking model. Yep. So here's where you paste the job description, and we'll pull the code apart in a moment. I've got a security warning here. In the version I upload, obviously it's not going to have API keys in it. But there is also a warning to remind people, don't put API keys in production code. Okay, you find some other way of doing it, either environmental variables or backend proxies or whatever. But for the purposes of proof of concept, you know, that's what I'm going with this. So what I've got is this version does have API keys in it, but I'm not going to show you it. I have a GitHub version which we're going to walk through, which I'll show you how this is all put together. So we're going to generate a study plan. So what this is doing is this, as you'll see in a moment, this is going away and talking to this through the API, because I generated an API key, and also in the code it actually gives you the web link to go to. You just need a Google account basically. If you've got a Google account, you can log into Google AI Studio and you can get an API key. You just basically click on this and it generates a key for you. You can generate multiple keys. Okay, so boom. So generating study plan, please wait. So here obviously I haven't set it up to do like streaming. You can, and you've probably seen me do other episodes where I've shown how that might be done. But for this one, it doesn't push everything out until it's got the final result basically, and then that's what we'll fill in here. So obviously we've got a bit of feedback here, so you know what's going on. If you forget to modify the code I'm going to upload to put in an API key, at this point it fails. You'll get I think a 400 error. So with these responses, comes out in MD format, and I've done a little tweak here. So you know, you could copy paste this into a text file, but we have a download study plan. So what it'll do, it'll just produce a file name based on certain information in here. I think it's probably the first, our team. There's a little bit in the function there that does that. So let's open this up. I've got MD viewer on my machine. So Markdown. Yeah, so that's what it looks like through a Markdown parser, reader, whatever you want to call it. So there you go. And of course, there's nothing to stop anyone like writing. There is actually an online library that you can reference in your JavaScript, which is like a Markdown parser, and you could use that. But I just elected to go down this route because it was more in keeping with what I wanted to do, and I didn't really want to add that to the code necessarily. I mean, I actually did, but then I took it out. I did reference an online library. So yeah, so this is what you end up with. Now what we'll do is we'll run it again before we look at the code with a slightly simpler position maybe. So let's do this junior AI engineer here. Now where I'm going with this is over time. Where are we? Let's do that. We'll include that as well. I forgot what I was going to say actually. So we're going to come back in here, paste this back in. Oops, Control A. Well, it probably needs a clear screen here as well. Generate study plan. Okay. Yep. So yeah. So with this, we're going to get obviously a completely different study plan, and it's not going to be quite so intense as well. Treasury, please wait. Actually, what we'll do, we'll go back and there it is. So same thing again. I can download that into there, and you can see this time around it's produced slightly different. One, come into here, boom. Yep, so it makes an assessment from this. So how is it doing it under the bonnet? Well, it's actually very simple. We're using a thinking model, so we're leveraging that quite heavily. Here's the code, slightly over documented and over commented. So first section, we have our style section. That's giving us our sort of reasonably fancy. I mean, it's not great, but it's passable. We could probably make this slightly larger if we really wanted to, but it does scroll. So we're probably not too interested in seeing it once we've pasted in there. And obviously there's a load of modifications you can do to this. So we've got style elements. Notice with this as well, this is all in a single file for convenience. Obviously, the done thing with this usually is to split this all down into like a separate HTML file, CSS and JavaScript file. But for the interest of just proof of concept and just ease of getting it out there, I've just got this one big monolith file. The other thing, in a moment we'll have a look at some functions actually, and I'll just talk about it there, but yeah, it's a bit of a chonky boy, and it might need to be de-chonked to obviously when you're refactoring, but yeah, a bit of a chonky boy. So we've got body h1 and then some comments here exactly. Well, I mean, most of this is pretty straightforward in fact what it's doing. Some of it, if you're not used to reading CSS, you might be wondering, what's exactly going on there. But a lot of it's really fairly easy to read, and in a lot of these coding environments now, you can see the colors that it's using. So we've got text area, button hover, the API response area, the error area. We've got a bit of a, so this is essentially the framework for, let me just do this here. Yeah. So this here is all your text area, your buttons, your dividers. Then we get this, which is a bit of a quick and dirty way I did at the last minute of doing this. Yeah. Document.write. Then we get some constants, so that's where you put the API key, and up here there's the link to where you can get the API key from. Of course you have to have a Google account to get in there, but that'll take you straight to that API page, where you can generate an API key if you're logged into your Google account. We're using the thinking experimental model. Now, of course, over time, these may no longer become available or no longer available for free. But at the moment, and that's why I'm getting this out there now, yeah, you can use them for free. So here's our base URL with where our model's going to go and where our API key is going to go. And the nice thing with this is, once you sort of understand how this holds together, you can obviously substitute different models. You can even take it and try it with different endpoints, but just obviously slicing and dicing the base URL up based on what other keys might be needed. It does need a header in there, and we've got a variable to store the API response text for the download functionality. Okay, here's our first function, just there. So get the job description, get the div to display. So this is the bit that's generating the study plan. So it's getting information, doing some hide shenanigans when you do the requests, clearing any previous response, checking if the job description is empty. If it isn't, then displaying an error message. Yep. So I should have actually haven't. I mean, let's just check here and see what happens if we do this. Yeah. So, and then if we do, let me just try it with a bit. Actually, no. Well, we know it works, don't we? The second time around, so there's no need. Yeah. So, yep. So a little bit of input validation going on there. Obviously, you can add stuff to it. I mean, you know, if I was to just put, actually, we will do this. Control A. If I was just to put hello in there, it's going to attempt to generate a study plan for hello. We'll come back and see what happens. So yeah, garbage in, garbage out. Generate study plan, please wait. And here's the prompt. So we've got a multi-line prompt. Probably could have done this a little bit cleaner. But I was again keen to get this out and share it. So you can sort of see what's going on here. It's just one big chunk of text over multiple lines. So can you take a look at the following job description and give me your opinion on the complexity of the job? There's the job description bit being inserted, similar to what we did manually. This I've slightly rephrased. It's just on 2 lines now. And so it's you don't run out of breath as you're saying it. Yeah. And then this final bit, just additional advice. We've got our payload. So, you know, our prompt text made up of the text and the job description part. We're going to do the post. And of course, all of our payloads in there ready to go. We've got our base URL, all sort of, you know, created up. Our header stuff, yeah, there. We're saying we're sending a JSON payload. So serialize the payload to a JSON format. Checking if we get a response. If not, then throw an error. Passing some responses a little bit here. Catching some stuff. The one warning thing here I would point out, critiquing myself, is some of these, well, both of these try catches, there's probably a little bit too much going on there, really. My understanding is it's good practice to not try too many things at once. But I am checking for various errors here as well. So, yeah. But if you were refactoring this, you may want to chunk it down a bit. And you've got another function which download for the download response, which is the bit, you know, where you click it, downloads the MD. This is how it's creating the file name. It just takes the first 20 characters of the job description file and replacing invalid characters with underscore or defaulting to study plan. basically. Puts on the MD extension, also making sure that it's got the content and markdown MIME type set correctly for the file. Creating a URL for the blob object, it's binary large object, and then this little bit here, which is going to because we don't really want this to appear until we've actually got something to download. So that's why it's sort of coming in on the fly. Yeah. Some clever stuff there. So yeah. So I'll upload that. I'll remove this bit at the end with GitHub on it, but yeah, something you can play around with. Yeah, so that's quite good actually. Please provide the job description. In the meantime, so yeah, saying hello. So that's pretty. What's going on here? Oh, okay. So it's actually given us a framework. Well, that's actually quite cool. So we now have a general framework for anything. And of course, the idea is with this is, you know, it doesn't have to be an IT job. I mean, I could go in and look up, I don't know. Oh, let me try and think of a job I've done from the past. So what about immunology? I must admit, I probably wouldn't know any of the regulatory affairs, senior of change management. Let's just go global. Research assistant. So this is, of course, we're doing junior, but it's going to be mentoring jobs as well. Training junior staff. There's PhDs here. Maybe I could do immunology. What about like a lab technician? I mean, a lot of this stuff, you know, is very difficult to do through self-directed learning. I mean, you can, but okay, university lab tech job. Working. Okay, blah 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 blah. Let's do it from there. Actually, no, we'll do it from position summary. Let's not get too much in there. So we'll go down to here, and then we will paste that in, and then we will generate a study plan. This will be interesting. Yeah, I don't think there's any much else here to explain. Like I said, lots pretty quick and dirty. Yeah, the usual thing of experiential, exploratory coding plus vibe coding mashed together over you know, a short period of time. Can produce quite messy code, but I thought it was important to sort of share this now. Because, you know, then people can sort of run with it and do with it as they will. So yeah, it will be going up onto my GitHub page. I'll include a link to the description, and it will be there when I release the video. Yep, so download the study plan again, position summary, boom, using the markdown viewer. Okay. So we would have to double check this. Yeah, because again, we're diving straight in. I haven't properly read, you know, normally what you would do is you would just read through the job description before you just like chuck it in. Yeah. So not surprisingly. Yeah. I mean, I spent, well, although it was, alongside when I was working, so I was doing, going to work and then doing college 1 day a week, sponsored by the firm. I ended up having to do 4 years of college, 2 years doing a chemistry certification, and then another 2 years doing a biochemistry with biochemical techniques, or applied biology, biochemical techniques, yeah. And it's funny because when you do that, like I did, like over 4 years, I changed jobs like 3 times. So what I thought I'd be doing at the start wasn't what I ended up doing at the end. Like I started out as a junior technician in a prep lab, ended up working in immunology. So when I started working in the immunology lab, that's when I did my second. I was on my second 2 years, and I was doing my biochemical techniques. Applied biology with biochemical techniques, because I was working in immunology. However, I ended up working in a quality assurance lab doing mainly microbiology with gut bacteria, which is a different discipline. And although it's using test kits, it changed somewhat. So yes, with the trouble with these qualifications is if your job changes several times, even when you're at the same firm, it can be a bit, tricky choosing a particular, thing to study. But yeah, this is not something I think I would attempt, because of course stuff like this you need access to fairly high-end machines, I would think. I mean, I've done stuff like, I remember doing when I did my postgrad, which was actually in computing and manufacturing. I did actually do a unit on polymer engineering, but by the way the course was structured and all the labs, it was possible to do it because we were mainly doing plastics and various other things. So there was stuff to do with melting plastics, which was possible to actually do at home. So some of these things are like when you're doing through, like I did through the Open University later on when I did my postgrad. They actually often have summer schools for some of the units which require, some sort of lab work. So yeah. But anyway, I digress. We've gone off at a bit more of a sort of career advice area. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. Thought I'd share it. Let me know anything you come up with interesting in the comments. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.